Okay, folks, here we go. Act 3, Scene 2 of Macbeth. The mania is taking over. In the previous scene, the hero, Scotland's, saviour, Valor's minion, this golden hero, Macbeth, is being transformed. As I said before, it's a big question. Is he transformed, or does the crime just reveal the truth of who he is? Anyway, either way, he's ordered Banquo, his friend's murder. He's consumed by jealousy. He's blaming the witches, even though it's his own fault. He's ordering the murder of a child. And what we see in this scene, and this is one of the big questions you have to prepare for your leaving cert, is the change in the dynamic of the relationship between our two central protagonists, or, Lady Macbeth and Macbeth. And don't forget, at the beginning of the play, it seemed that she was the one with the power. She was like so impressive, hie thee hither that I may pour my spirits in thine ear, and chastise with the valour of my tongue all that impedes thee from the golden round. And, her saying to him, giving him the plan and telling him, how easy it will be to do this. And so she seems to have the power. But we understand that the reason that she's acting the way she's acting is because she feels that he needs her, and that empowers her because, of course, she says that he's too full of the milk of human kindness. That relationship where he was kind of almost dependent on her, you see that it's becoming strained, and it will break really quickly now that he's king. Because don't forget, he needed her. I don't think there's any question that he loves his wife. At the beginning of the play, I don't think there's any question. But Macbeth's, and again, this is my theory, and you can reject it, you can argue it with your teacher. I'm just trying to get you to be informed and have an opinion. For me, Macbeth is a classic narcissist. Fundamentally, even though he's aware of, other people, fundamentally, his needs come first. So in the first act of the play and the second act of the play, sorry there now, there's just a hairdryer going. Close that door. In the first act of the play and the second act of the play, he relies on his wife. That relationship is strong because she can help him. He needs her. He wants the crown. He can't do it on his own, so he needs her. So now he has the crown, but he still has this big gaping need, Patrick Kavanagh, in his senses, and that's for security. He wants something you can't have. He wants to be secure as king, and he can't be secure as king because he's a usurper, a regicide. He stole the crown. But she can't help him achieve that. So we see that he begins to reject her because she can't give him what he needs. And we see the impact that has on her. And it's a devastating impact. So that all begins in this scene. I'll go through it really quickly. Again, have a quick look through this. You read this in a bit more detail. And then we have a look at the key quotes. That's what really matters here. So the change is evident in Macbeth's character in the last scene, come into even sharper focus in this one. In the first two acts, as I said, Macbeth and his wife are partners, sharing ambition and plotting and executing the murder. But in this scene, it becomes clear that that partnership is breaking down. Macbeth is increasingly isolated in his moral vacuum. What do I mean by that? I mean that, he has killed a king. He knows he's going to hell. He's resorting to terrible tactics, murdering his friend, hiring criminals, murdering a child. Nobody can reach him anymore. He's on his own. And he tells his wife how unhappy she is. And he says that he's unhappy because he's unable to enjoy the fruits of his crime. But don't forget, he knew that before he did it. So we can't feel sorry for him here. We see the criminal, the murderer, feeling sorry for himself, feeling self-pity. And instead of that engendering our sympathy, it actually engenders our antipathy. We like him less. He feels his crown is not secure. And he tells her that he's being tortured by terrible dreams. Now don't forget, he said, didn't he, when he killed the king, that Macbeth has murdered sleep that knits up the ravelled sleeve of care, sore nature's balm. He said he would never sleep again. These dreams are a clear indication that he still has some form of a conscience. So he's been haunted by what he's done. She tries to perform her usual role. She offers him reassurance. She tells him, not to think about these things because, just get on with life. But of course, he can't do that. And crucially, he excludes her from his plan. Not only does he not tell her about his writ or his order for Banquo to be killed, his writ on Banquo's life. Not only does he not tell her about that, he actively lies to her. He tells her, when Banquo attends the banquet tonight, look after him, pay attention to him, make a fuss of him. And yet he knows if his plan comes to fruition, that Banquo won't be at the banquet. So he's lying even to her now. And this is indicative of two things. Again, his isolation, and secondly, the splintering, the sundering, the fracturing of this once very, very close relationship. They are no longer partners. When he instructs his wife to once again act and deceive in front of the court, he is commenting on his own behaviour towards her. The scene ends with Macbeth once again calling on darkness to hide his bloody deeds, as he did before the crime. And he says that in order to hold on to what he has, he's going to have to commit more crimes. And again, the foreshadowing of ominous events for Scotland is clear. One of the great quotes, Lady Macbeth speaking, not in soliloquy, but in an aside at the start of the scene, before she's joined by her husband, says, "Naught's had, all spent, where our desire is got without content. Regrets, I've had a few." What does she mean? Oh God, it was all a waste of time. All that energy we spent is a waste of energy. If we got what we wanted and it hasn't brought us happiness. How the hell did she think killing a king was ever going to bring them happiness? She was living in the moment. She wasn't thinking long term. She was thinking short term. That's why she said she would switch off or block up the access and passage to remorse. That's why she mocked him about having the milk of human kindness, having a conscience. She just wanted to get the crown. She didn't think about what next. This was like, George Bush deciding to invade Iraq and Afghanistan because that's what he wanted to do, never thinking about the long-term plan. This is Lady Macbeth with regrets. She knows her husband is not happy. She knows that what they have done, what they have sacrificed, has been for naught. And yet, when he appears on stage miserable, she puts on her happy face and she tells him, "Things without all remedy should be without regard. What's done is done." Sorry, the door. I thought there was somebody coming in. A bit of wind there because I have the window open. What's done is done. She tells him, "It's okay, husband. Just forget about it. Move on." Now, of course, she knows that those words are fatuous. She knows that those words are meaningless. But what else does she have? What can she tell him? So she tries to reassure him, but now her words of reassurance fall on deaf ears. And his obsessions become clear. He says, "We have scotched or scorched the snake, not killed it." Some books it's scotched, others it's scorched. So in other words, the danger is there, but he hasn't got rid of the danger. In other words, he's got the crown, but he's not safe. The snake is still around him. The danger still lies around. He feels threatened. And then he talks about the terrible dreams that shake him nightly. Proof that he does have conscience at this moment in his life. He is a monster. He is developing into the tyrant, but he still has that voice in the back of his head telling him that what he's doing is wrong. He tells her to make, in one of the great images of the play, don't forget, false face must hide what the false heart doth know. Again, from Act 1, Scene 1. Don't forget Lady Macbeth's enjoiner for him to look like the innocent flower, but be the serpent under it. Here's another image to learn to do with deception and appearance versus reality. Make our faces vizards to our hearts, disguising what they are. The reason I paused there is because I want to explain. Vizard is an antique term that has evolved into the word visor. Like on a helmet, if you pull the visor down. So this is a reference to a suit of armour. So you wear the helmet and the visor covers your face. In other words, if you have your visor down, nobody can see your face, so nobody can see what you're thinking. So he's telling her to put on the happy face, that when the lords of Scotland arrive for the banquet that's planned for the castle that night, they are troubled. Macbeth and his wife are troubled. They are disappointed. They are carrying the weight of all that's gone on, but they have to put on that happy face. So again, appearance versus reality, disguise, deception as a key theme and imagery in the play. If there is a quote from Act 3 that sums up what happens to their relationship, it is this quote. She asks him, and he kind of hints that something is happening, that he has some plan. We know what the plan is through dramatic irony. Don't forget what dramatic irony is. Oh, apologies, folks. That's when we know something is going to happen, when maybe one or two of the characters don't know it. So remember when Duncan arrived at Macbeth's castle in Act 1, Scene 6, and he was greeted by Lady Macbeth, and she was like very friendly towards him, but we knew she was planning to kill him. That creates tension. Same thing here. We know that he has ordered for Banquo to be murdered. We know that he's hired these 3 murderers and that he's ordered for Fleance to be murdered. He hints that something is going to happen. And when she says what's going on, he says, don't you worry your little head about it. Be innocent of the knowledge, dearest Chuck. His tone is patronising and dismissive. A Chuck is a little chicken. He's using this dismissive term to undermine her, to demean her. And of course, it must be like a sword into her soul. She has been his life partner. She has been his co-conspirator. She has committed or helped commit an act of regicide along with him. And he's telling her to be innocent. He's calling her a little Chuck. He's telling her not to worry her little head. You can see that he's cutting her off there. And extraordinarily, this woman who at the beginning of the play, was talking about smashing her baby's face in, I've given suck and know how tender 'tis to love the babe that milks me. I would, while it was smiling in my face, have plucked my nipple from its boneless gums and dashed the brains out, had I so sworn. This woman who, when Macbeth was going about killing the king, was talking about how what has made them drunk has made me bold. And she was like excited and tingling with the thrill of the crime. And suddenly, at this moment, at this very human moment where she's rejected by her husband, you find yourself, what's that? What's that? What am I feeling? I'm feeling sorry for Lady Macbeth. And you do, because it's just a real cringe moment for her. And this is Shakespeare's genius, presenting us with these characters that are nuanced and complex and challenge our perceptions and show us that somebody can be heinous and relatable, monstrous and human. This is these 2 characters. The end of the scene, he gives her a hint that he knows he only has one strategy to be king. He says, things bad begun make strong themselves by ill. What's the thing that he's referring to? His reign as king. How did his reign begin badly? It began with a regicide. What's he saying? I became king through murder, through killing, through bloodshed. The only way I can remain as king is through murder, through killing, through bloodshed. And it's like Shakespeare might as well, if they had an organ at the time, which they wouldn't have had because it wasn't invented yet, you would have had somebody in the side of the theatre going, din, din, din. We're going, shit, what's going to happen? He's going to start killing a lot of people. And of course, immediately, very quickly now, in the scene that follows that, Banquo is murdered. But crucially, when Banquo is murdered, he is brave, he fights against the murderers, and he protects his son, and Fleance gets away. So Macbeth's attempt to stymie the threat of the witch's prophecy has failed. And this will drive him mad, of course. He becomes mad. When I say mad, loses touch with reality, I suppose is right there. But when he finds out that Banquo has survived his assassination attempt, when he finds out that Banquo is dead, but that Fleance has survived, it takes away, if you like, for a twisted man like Macbeth, the good that he felt when he heard that Banquo died. So it's really, really significant that Banquo dies trying to save his child, whereas Macbeth, he is somebody who kills children. And the contrast between the 2 men could not be more stark. Fascinating, fascinating play. That's Act 3, scenes 2 and 3.